Hello, everybody. Hello, it's good to see so many wonderful friends and artists who are part of the museum's community here today, and friends. You know, it's always the problem that you want to have, that you've got a Saturday afternoon lecture and you don't have enough chairs out. So thank you for bearing with us as we wheel out the chairs. It is a very, very, very deep honor for Woodmere. It's a very deep honor for Woodmere to have worked with Barbara Bullock for these many years. Barbara has worked in this museum for decades as an education partner, as she has in other museums across the city, like the Philadelphia Museum of Art and elsewhere. And it is, of course, the museum's extraordinary honor to have these beautiful works of art on view, a retrospective of Barbara Bullock, Fearless Vision. Let's have a big, warm, thunderous round of applause for Barbara. It is really extraordinary to have been working with Barbara through this exhibition, and we have much more to come. This afternoon's program is a conversation, a three-way conversation between Barbara, who's a superstar, and two other women who are superstars, Leslie King Hammond and Lowery Stokes Sims, who are, And both Leslie and Lowery are distinguished as curators, art historians, educators, people who have brought, the center and the grassroots together in the world of the arts in extraordinary ways. And it is Woodmere's deep honor that they are here to talk with all of us and to talk with Barbara about Barbara's work and have a conversation with all of us. So the program will be a three-way conversation that'll go on for about 45 minutes, we're thinking, and then we will open it up for questions, and I will run around with a microphone, and so will Hildy run around with a microphone, and so you'll raise your hand for questions, and we'll ask you to wait for the mic. And then afterwards, we have a reception set up in the historic galleries, and we hope that you'll join us for a glass of wine and some refreshments. So, welcome. Thank you for joining us, and let's have one more big round of applause and greet Barbara Bullock, Leslie King Hammond, and Lowery Stokes Sims.
Well, I cannot tell you how exciting this is for all of us, but most especially for Barbara. I can't remember when I first met you. It's been decades ago, and we have been talking about this moment, this exhibition, forever. And it has been a real honor and a real special achievement on the part of Lowery and I, who love to work throughout our histories, regardless of our institutional affiliations, with all those artists who traditionally or historically were thought to be on the periphery or on the outside of the so-called mainstream art world, whatever the hell that was. Okay? So, during the summer, and it was hot as hell when we came to talk to Barbara the first time, and which is included in the beautiful catalog available for this exhibition, we got to learn about Barbara in ways that I think Barbara was even surprised about.
Definitely.
And what we're going to do today is to identify certain areas and certain genres in which she worked so that we can get a better understanding of how this exhibition, one, came to be, but more important, what was the process and what were the challenges and the inspired moments in her jersey. So with that, I introduce my co-conspirator, and those of you who don't know, Lowery Stokes Sims and I. have been affiliated, I'm using that word lightly, because we emerged at a time when two colored girls were not expected to emerge in the role of art historians. And we were often questioned, like, what are you all doing? Why are you doing that? Or don't bother to do it because it's not going anywhere and no one is interested. Well, you know, we both suffer from bonehead disease. You know, and as my niece says, when they ask about Aunt Leslie, what's Aunt Leslie doing? And my niece will say, Aunt Leslie is living life by her rules. As was Lowery Sims, because we would talk to each other relentlessly about the problems in an era when we were dealing with feminism, the culture wars, LGBTQ, you name it. Do you understand? We had to find ways to ferret our way through this mess. And in it, we would meet people like Barbara Bullock. So I now, free form, we now go to structure and discipline. The Dr. Lowery Stokes Sims.
Well, it's only structure and form with me because I'm insecure. Because I am a recent Barbara Bullock fan. I had heard her name, and through the many, many years I was in the art world, I saw snippets of her work in New York, but never really got to know her till this summer. And now sitting in this exhibition, I am freaking blown away and don't know why she is not at the top of the pantheon of the art world, because this work is so extraordinary. So it was to me to sort of organize this little presentation here. So one of the things that I noticed, because Leslie and I had a PDF of the catalog before everybody else saw it, is in going through to find images and doing a search, a word search, there were certain words that kept popping up in the 2 or 3 interviews that are in the catalog. Children and spirituality. It was just amazing. And so I think that how Barbara has approached her work from my point of view is to sort of basically celebrate what expressions of spirituality that we have, and also to be concerned that children can sort of have access to that experience. So the first theme I pulled up was dance, because I think, Barbara, you had many celebrated dancers in your circle, Arthur Hill, Louis Tanner Moore. These works also show the inspiration of Matisse. So talk about how you got into dancing. And this first slide is a sort of maquette for the piece you did for the airport.
Yeah, that was a surprise for me. I was asked to do this exhibition or a design for the international airport. And I wasn't sure that, I mean, I knew so many dancers in my life, and I worked with many dancers, and just their world, the way they move, and I mean, just everything about them is like, in the very beginning, I think the first drawings I did were of dancers, of movement. I love movement. And I felt like, you know, I knew Arthur Hall, and I would constantly, they always had an open door kind of a relationship with the community. And so I would always just go and listen to the drummers, to the musicians, and watch their dancers. And I would do many drawings from them. And I remember when Arthur Hall was given the Model Cities Cultural Arts Program, that, and he asked me to, you know, be the director of the art department. I felt like all of the people that I knew were the ones that should have been the director, not myself. You know? And I had to say that I had so many jobs. I was a babysitter, a chef, anything, you know, to be able to go to school and learn art. But working with Arthur was that experience of really the stories that are told in dance and the meaning of dance. And I also was able to see with the dancers, those that praised the ground that they were standing on, that they were dancing on, and that those that just also the idea that they live on a planet, you know, it was just, so I was constantly drawing dancers. Let's just say I drew constantly. Even when I was working, I hid the drawings, but I always did drawings of dancers.
I'm just going to skip ahead now that you're saying this, because I think this work, which is right over there on the bottom, this study for the installation at the SEPTA 6th Avenue and Market Street Bell Station.
Right.
I mean, just the way that you capture the shoulders and the, you know, it's just like really marvelous.
Yeah, I did hundreds of drawings before I decided I was actually going to do this project. And I wanted to be honest with myself. I felt like I knew the tap dancers, the African dancers, the praise, you know, also the contemporary dancers. And I can't believe that I think for hours I just kept drawing movement. And I finally said, okay, I think I can do this. I can be honest about this. I can really talk about it. That community was the same community that had the, what's his name? A bandstand. And I don't know how many of you remember bandstand, but I do remember that there were, black children were not allowed into bandstand.
Right.
In that community. And we had meetings with the people in the community who wanted dance. And I said, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to talk about the fact that that we as a people are such powerful dancers. And that was probably the first art that I realized, you know, that we were so strong in. And so, like I said, I did many drawings, and it was like a labor of love, you know. And I really wanted to make that statement to the community because they were not allowed into the bandstand. And so, in fact, there was a whole history behind it. I had to really think about it again. And of course, I went on my YouTube, and there definitely is a lot of information on the whole history. So,
Okay. Tell me something. Did you dance?
oh, did I dance? I danced all the time. I danced in my house, in my, you know, wherever I danced. But when I also took classes with Arthur Hall, and he had asked that the teachers in the Model City program, we had dance, drama, we had jazz. I had the art department, and I was supposed to direct the art department, but I found myself going to the dance department a lot. And so I found myself in one of his productions. It was a ballet, and I really wasn't ready, but I just knew I was. So I'm just hoping that people don't have a memory of that. But yeah.
So there's several works here that that on the theme of the healer. There's this one, then you have the healing altar. So tell me about this sense of healing. Does it relate to what you thought dance was? I mean, I'm sort of trying to build a theme here about how some of the ideas in your work are interconnected.
I think the strongest time was during the AIDS. And I also knew, like, I had some friends who were not doing well. And I thought about the healing, and being an artist, it's always so hard when you're in your studio and you really want to talk about this, you know. I had friends who had AIDS, and I decided, well, you know, I'm an artist, I should be able to talk about this, you know. And I think also there was that time when I was traveling to Africa, so I could see a lot of the Africa of the beliefs in the Healer series. But I remember doing an exhibition called The Healers. And I remember that some of the people who came had AIDS. Mm-hmm. And they really felt that this, you know, that the paintings were about that, about how to heal yourself. And I remember just feeling so bad about it, because I knew, like, this was my expression. This is what I wanted to say about it. But I don't know, it was a very emotional time. And when you look at this figure, it's very strange. But, I don't know.
Why do you think it's strange?
I think I tried to put, like, not even talking about doctors but basically I was talking about belief and feeling that that was the healer, you know, that you believe that you can feel better, that, you know, that there is healing in looking at the creative form. And that's, I can only say that in my studio, this is what I did, you know. It's not so easy to talk about the process of, but he was a healer. This is how I felt about him.
You traveled a lot in Africa. Tell us what the impact of those experiences were like for you, especially as you were beginning to deal with this Healer series. What were some of the relationships that you drew from those moments?
I know that traveling in the first place that I did go to was Egypt, and I felt that should be the first place that I should go to in Africa. And then I went to Morocco and Senegal, and I just kept traveling all over Africa. But, you know, I wanted to go, I did research before I went, and then I wanted to go as a spirit. I just wanted to be there. I didn't want to have I didn't want to talk about all this knowledge, everything that I had learned. I just wanted to smell it, to walk on the land, to meet the people, to look at the people, and I know when I really began traveling in Africa, I really didn't have that much money. I don't know why it was, but every time I would get to Africa, I would have $30 for some reason. That was the strangest thing. I mean, it was a constant, you know. So I ate the food, drank the water, did everything you weren't supposed to do, and I met people, and they would say, "I'm going to take you here and show you this." Now, very good. I'm coming, you know. So it was. Every place in Africa is different. You know, every country in Africa is different. And there are things that I learned just being there. And I know when I went to Mali, I didn't realize that I'm going to meet the Dogon people, and they were living on plateaus, you know. You had to climb plateaus. And the people just climbed the plateaus, you know? I didn't know how to, there were no steps. no elevators, no nothing. This is what you do. You just climb up. And I remember watching old Tarzan movies, please forgive me, where the African people carried everything, the luggage, everything, like the people sat on the, and just rode through. And I was like, I would never do that. When I got to Mali, there was a little boy that came up to me and he said, Mama, can I carry something for you? I gave him my bags. I gave him everything. I was like, okay. And he's like, just hold my shoulder. He's like this. He said, just hold my shoulder. And because I was holding on to the rocks, to his shoulder, but it just amazed me. A goat passed me, coming down, just mountain goat, just, It's like, God, I can't do any of this, but I'm going to have to do it. I'm here, I'm going to have to do it. But it was always amazing. And I can only say that at nighttime, it was like every star, you saw every star in the sky.
That's right.
And it was, I did meet someone in Senegal, and he took me everywhere. He just said to me, I'm going to show you everything. I'm going to show you Africa. And I was like, very good. Even though I'm with this group of people, I'll leave and I'm going to go with you. And so we went to Goree Island, which is, everybody knows how emotional and how terrible that is, where people were taken off of Goree Island onto the ships as slaves. And I think we went there probably about 6 different times. And he took me under Goree Island, where it was a cave, and the water was coming down, and the people were blessing themselves with it, like it was sacred, With many different experiences, like being there, And I know that I had to remember all of them for the retrospective, and it was a constant. I went to bed thinking about Africa. I went to bed thinking about the memories I couldn't stop the memories. But I'm glad that I did go the way I traveled. I camped the last 5 or 6 times that I was there. And I'm glad that I don't know about the snakes. I didn't know about the snakes then, but but it was.
Yeah, but there are plenty of snakes all around here in the world. Okay, so I just wanted you all to know where the snakes came from.
I have great respect for them. I really do. Yeah. So, but
Okay.
Okay.
definitely.
All right. One of the things that, and in his introduction, Bill sort of really talks about how so often your art is contrasted with bright colors against deep, dark blacks, fiery oranges and yellows. But your use of black is really interesting to me because there's always controversies in the art world, going back to the Impressionists, about using black. And Manet was shocking because he used, black tonalities. And then you had Clifford Still, Norman Lewis, Ad Reinhardt, So tell me about, in works like Bitches Brew and also the Panther studies, what was the impetus to sort of do this kind of black? I mean, this piece just knocks me out because she's doing some sizzle work here that is like incredible.
Okay, well, I can say that my use of black, because I've always heard of black as being such a negative color, word, whatever you want to use. And I just said, oh no, I'm going to work with black. My work is going to be black. And that was my use of black. I also, I don't know, I would always start out with yellow. I used a lot of layers when I work. I start out with yellow, and I know that's going to make that black stronger. That it's going to give it the life that I wanted to have.
Now, is it undercolor or
Yes,
is it
a-
juxtaposed?
No, it's an undercolor.
Ah.
Yeah, basically I've used yellow, red, green, then I use black. And I just layer and layer both sides of my paper. And because I'm working with paper, and I love paper, but I think that, like, I want to create this paper, change it into the material that I want to work with. So color does that with, I work with 300-pound watercolor paper. And so I can like layer it for days until I'm satisfied with the way it feels and how I can work with it. So I don't use a matte knife because I had a bad accident with a matte knife. I'm really not good with matte. I don't even want to look at a matte knife. So I use scissors. So there are hundreds of pairs of scissors. But yeah, definitely I can work so much better with good scissors. And so I really don't have a problem like creating a shape. The shape comes before the form. And it's really hard to talk about that process. It's so personal and so experimental. You know, I don't know how many artists are in here, but I know our work has so much to do with experimenting. You know, I'm never sure. And a lot of times when I do create a form, this form was for Bitches Brew. Bitches Brew is, as everyone here knows, Miles Davis.
Right.
He's the one that said Bitches Brew. I'm just doing Bitches Brew. So I've had to answer that several times. But
It's something about the B word?
yeah, Miles said it, not me.
Yeah, okay.
But so I really, I have been listening to that album for years, and it was just this really beautiful music behind me. And then finally I said, I have to talk about this music. So I began listening to it and trying to understand what I saw in it. And I saw a celebration, but I also, like, if you see the Panther, that was the first animal person I saw, like this panther, this Black Panther approaching. And it was at night, and that's when they come out. And I started working with the Black Panther and a black bird and my black cat. My black cat slept on the panther while I was working on it. She never slept on anything I've ever worked. She just slept on it. And I don't know, it just started emerging. I did a lot of drawings, hundreds of drawings again, but for some reason, I fell in love with the Black Panther. I went online, I looked at, them moving, and I just said, this is so extraordinary. This is real. This is, I almost thought about it like my people. That was it. So,
Can you talk a little bit about, you have a lot of symbolism, but one of the things that seems to be flying through this space is this blackbird.
oh, the blackbirds.
Yeah.
That was a part of the whole black thing. It was black birds, black people, black animals, black paint, everything. It was like, I don't know, I felt like this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to show people how beautiful, how powerful a color is, Like I could go from, it was black, and then when I went to red, but it was always black. So the birds, I felt like were a continuum, and I always felt like the mystery of the birds. I think people are jealous of birds. I know I was. They could fly, you know what I mean? It was, so it's, I did many birds. And whenever I did exhibitions, I always wanted them to fly, to continue, to take you to the next.
Right.
thing.
That was good.
Okay, I wanted to move on to your work with children. This is just a student project at Cecilia School in New Jersey that was done in 1990, Sacred Waters. When we get into like the 90s, the Spirit House, Chasing After Spirits, Trayvon Martin, Most Precious Blood, we're really getting into this shaped
Yeah.
collage painting. How did you sort of arrive at that?
Well, I think it kind of happened kind of naturally. I love to use art as a language, and once I painted so many papers, I painted, usually I would have a pile of papers that I had just simply painted, and I would think about of life, of what is happening in the world, and what has happened with myself, at that time. And so I use, whenever, like creating the three-dimensional pieces, they were like this conversation I was having with myself, like with Katrina, and that was very emotional, that whole thing, that whole catastrophe. And so it was not that hard for me to to use these forms as this conversation. Now for me, it's a conversation, and it's, as the artist, I know what I want to say. I would love for people to look at the work and see what they have to feel about it. I think that Chasing After Spirits was something that just came to me one evening. I love research, and I always want to my work to be about something. And so Chasing After Spirits was like that whole history, the history of the people that I knew that are not here anymore, and the people who are here. And I, talking to my friends, even when we talk about our families, some of us loved our families. It shocks me. Some people were not treated that great, so they didn't love their families. So, it's really, when you get all these different stories about life, it is art for me. I just take it and, of course, so you're gonna see like hands and feet and snakes and, very different shapes, but they also have their special meanings for me. They're also about wear or when, or just the fact that they're life, and it is a lot of that, hopefully, in my work.
I wanted to sort of see these two, which are upstairs here. The Child in the Land of the Saints. Spirit, sorry. And Child Dream of Snakes in the Grass. Talk about those.
Okay, Child in the Land of the Spirits was, I read a book called The Famished Land, The Famished Road. And it was by a Nigerian author, and it was all about a child who was born and had to make up his mind whether he wanted to stay on this earth or go back to where children come from. Oh, that's a loaded question. In the book, it was like a lot of the children's spirits were trying to call him back and say, no, you don't want to go there. You want to stay with us, And his life, the reason why he stayed was because he loved his mother. And so his life was really hard, and it was in an area where it was almost like this road that led into the forest, but it was all about spirits. It was a constant, every page has spirits. And for some reason, I love this book because it really talked about children, and it talked about decisions and how children live their lives sometimes. Now, child dreams of snakes in the grass. I think there was at a time when I felt I had met some snakes in the grass. And and also in reality, children have a hard time sometimes, And in teaching many of them, I could see in their work, if you really look at a child's work, about their life, really interesting things. So, and hard things too.
And this one about Trayvon Martin, Most Precious Blood.
Oh yeah, I went to a church in my childhood called Most Precious Blood. And for some reason, I also began looking at the names of other churches. I felt like they were quite beautiful names. But Most Precious Blood, I never forgot. And growing up, and some of the jobs that I had, like working, teaching, working in programs, working in prisons, and just walking throughout life, I saw things happen. And a few times I was there when someone was killed, And I didn't have any children, but you still, And I remember watching the trial, Trayvon Martin's trial. His mother was there every day.
Right.
And I kept looking at her. I couldn't fathom what she was going through. And I started working on this piece from the wall. And I know that the two forms on the top are broken hearts. And I kept working on it, and it's really hard to work emotionally on a piece, but that one was really for his mother. I did it for her.
I was really interested in your work of how you did things that were almost like educational and playful, like the pop-up books, the African Garden, the Watermelon Cafe pop-up book, and then your theater space here, the Magic Theater 2, which is back there, New Orleans Magic, and then your game boards, the Egyptian game board, the game boards and pieces. So what was the impetus for these kinds of forms that you were making?
Okay, well, the Magic Theater, basically, I had gone into a building where Prince and Progress was at one time. And I saw on the mantle was like this little pinhole theater, like about this big, with a little hole in it. And I looked at it and I was like, you know what, this would be an interesting project. This would be a beautiful project for children. I felt like, okay, it's three-dimensional. It's a painting project. It's a story project. And when you go into the school system, this is what they want to add to their curriculum.
Right.
And I did 10 of them. I fell in love with them. If they weren't going to do them, I loved it anyway. But I presented to an assembly, and I remember the children came up on the stage and got down on their knees, and they would look through the pinhole. And then the teachers would come and just look down, and see what was on the inside. But the children were allowed to place anything on the back wall that, a picture of themselves, or their parents, or that they wanted to draw a painting, and they would look through that hole and they could see it. And it was a great project.
So
but I took most of them apart again.
So,
the
pop-up books.
That was, what was it? Jumanji,
Oh, yeah.
Jumanji, the film.
The movie Jumanji, yes.
We are still allowed to be childish or children. Really, you are. And I was like, oh my God, this is just the most amazing thing, this pop-up, that world, And so I decided that was what I was going to do.
So does that also fit into what the game boards are about?
The game board definitely went into Jumanji. I could not, I watched that movie over and over and over. And I was like, this should be real. This should be able to happen. They tore the whole house up. I love that whole thing, So I decided I'm going to do this as a project with children, because it's the same idea. It's the same thing of painting, of creating a game, and for all the reasons, the game board, the box that contains the games, and I did this at Rutgers University.
Okay.
And I was working with teachers there that were learning. This was in the summer. They would learn projects that they would be able to take into the school system to be a part of the curriculum. And it was my example was a Chinese checker thing. I couldn't think any further. It wasn't going to come to life. It was going to be Chinese checkers. And so they did amazing. God, teachers are like absolutely brilliant artists. They really are. And then to teach during the year, and then come in the summer, and that's so much dedication, But that was a great project. It really was.
Why don't you talk a little bit about, because you have done so much of it on so many levels, about your relationship and why teaching is so important. We're in a national crisis right now with teaching, teachers, institutions, banned books. You can go down the line. Do you understand? And this is an area in our communities that is becoming a crisis for us to deal with it. What was the driving passion for you to continue working in the community and believing in teaching?
Well, for me, it was quite a natural thing that if you know how to do something, you're gonna teach that. I felt like with children, in a lot of ways, I felt they really needed to learn how to express themselves, to talk about, in the school system, I felt that it was the rounding out of your life, of a child's life. And of course, like when I was in school, like art was in the school, and children had a chance to just let themselves be creative, to make something, to talk about, their families. I don't know why they all did the same thing, and that was at the point where I felt like I need to teach. Because I remember they did the house, they did how many people were in the house, and the one flower, and the tree, and that sun in the corner. And I was like, we're going to have to sit down and talk about this, all of you. And we began I would say, okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a portrait of our mother. And I had said that to them for a reason. And a lot of the times when I was teaching, it was in a community where you have a lot of African American children. And they would draw that circle, strong circle. And they never colored it in, they just drew that circle. They did the circle eyes, nose, and whatever. And they did the blonde hair, and that sort of hit me like, that is not your mother. That is not what your mother looks like. And then they were like, this is my mother. It's like, no. First of all, okay, let's talk about our hair. And they were like, okay, well, my hair is curly, and on and on. I was like, your mother's hair must be curly, too. What color is your mother's hair? What color is your mother? And we're like, I don't want to color it in. They were like, they really did not. And I was like, no, we have to color it in. We're going to color it in. I don't know. Here are the crayons. You got the crayons. You're going to color it in. And they began to color it in. And then we talked about the eyes, the nose, the mouth. And I said to them, you know, when your mother comes to pick you up, I want her to look like that. Okay. Because she didn't really come to pick them up. But they knew what I meant. So I think that was that joy that, you know, I could really talk to children and get them to also to see, you know, even though they wanted to draw, they wanted to be creative, I felt like, but I could, like, I know Diane Perry is here. When we worked at Prince in Progress, and we would see that sun in the corner constantly, we had to take the children over to the corner, over to the window. I'm like, now this is a window. Now where is the sun in the corner? And they would just, there's no sun in the, where's the sun? And so, well, the sun is, you can see it reflected on the car. Right. You might not be able to see it, but it's there. And so we really, it was that conversation, you know, having a conversation with children about, you know, about everything that they wanted to explore. So, I don't know, for me it was the love of just teaching.
It's really interesting because, like, in the art world, there's this sort of saying, those who can do and those who can't teach. And you brought those two things together in a very extraordinary and powerful way. So we thank you. You need a, I think she deserves a hand for that, don't you?
Also, too, I think, how many in the audience have been beneficiaries of Barbara's teaching? Let me see your hands. See? There they are.
Oh, my goodness.
See? There they are. All right. Yes.
How many wish they had been? All right, now we're going to go into a series that'll get you in trouble today.
Oh, yeah.
The Jasmine Garden series from 1980. All right, girlfriend. Whoa. Uh-oh.
Boy, this one, when we were doing the interview with her, oh, did we have some giggles.
So this was very controversial, 1980.
I know.
You know?
Yeah.
What was the impetus to sort of start doing these drawings that celebrated eroticism and sexual identity? I mean, was it the AIDS epidemic or just that particular moment?
Well before it. This had to do, well, I finished working in model cities.
Right.
And I remember Martha Jackson, another extraordinary, such an extraordinary artist. And I said, and we were talking, I was like, I really want to get into my studio, I really want to work, I just, you know, and I said, you know, I've been thinking, I want to talk about love. You know, this whole planet needs love. So I was at that age where I was truly vulnerable, period. We were all at that age. Everybody out there, you have to be with me on this because we've all gone through this, you know. Well, I know I went through this. Okay. My thing was, I went to the bookstores and I'm gonna research. I love researching, so I'm gonna do my researching. And so I would go to the bookstores and I would go to the back of the bookstores where all the men were. I said, you have to, I want to do, if I do this erotic series, I'm not leaving anything out. I don't care, I'm not leaving anything out. And so I began to do hundreds of drawings, and I have hundreds of friends who were like, this is You should do this. Really, you should do this. And I started visiting, not visiting, to be honest with you, I would go to bars, and I would go to gay bars. I would go everywhere. I'm going to really do this, because that's how I feel. I don't think you should halfway do anything. And so, because you're going to go through it anyway. So, at any rate, I can just say I did a lot of research. And so with the drawing, I felt like it was so beautiful, and I started looking at the Asian, the Japanese
Prince.
book, book on love making, and I felt like, okay, well, this is about warriors too, because warriors had to learn how to love a female, and how, and just the delicacy of the flowers, the letters, just everything. They had to learn about it. So I thought it was really, this is going to be okay. I did all of these drawings. I did, hundreds and hundreds of drawings. Paintings. I did paintings that were 7 feet by 8 feet. And I can't, the only thing I can say is at that time, that's where I was. And I did all of this work, and then I was told I was going to be in this exhibition, and I took the work there, and with other people who were not doing the same thing, and
We're not doing this.
it was a lesson to be learned that I think most artists did a lot of drawings. They just did not take them out and hang them on the wall. And I did. And so, it was almost like, to be honest with you, I thought I lost some friends. I lost a lot of friends. I did. They were just, you don't do that. You're a girl, first of all. You're a female, and you don't do that. And so I did that. And, but it was quite, it was quite interesting. And I think the drawing for me was like so strong, so powerful. And the paintings were really strong. And they were huge. So when I took them to this one place, I don't want to even say the name, I took them to this college, and the other artists were with me. They were all, in the exhibition, and they would not open the door. It was hundreds of people standing out there, and they wouldn't open the doors. They were like, we have to think about this. This is not, I couldn't understand that. It really hurt me, and I was like, hurt me, it scared me, for one thing. When they said, we're opening the doors, and the people came in, and the people that, my friends, they were like, this is terrible. And the children were sitting on the floor in front of the paint, because they didn't, the children were sitting on the floor, and they wanted to know, is this Spare My Part? You didn't get that, I could tell. They thought it was Spare My Part. So the children had no problem with it.
Right.
But oh God, it was, after that, it was really, I had a hard, I can't tell you, it was just really hard. Nobody wanted to see the Jasmine Garden. But in my studio, I sold so many of those. I sold so many of those.
Oh my God.
That was a period of history, if you look at the dates, where, feminist movement was beginning to emerge, and one of the mythologies was that women were not supposed to enjoy sex. We were just supposed to be there as the recipients, you understand, as the vessels, you understand? And for a woman to make a declarative, decisive statement and create works that were truly full of the same kind of passion as you would see in those Japanese books and those fantastic prints where they talk about lovemaking. much less the Kuma Sutra, okay? But for a woman to be the one to make these statements at the time, and you were a little black, petite, cute woman. You understand? It's like, how could you do that? You understand? But this is where history was at the time. And those are the challenges that had to be dealt with. And so now that we look at them, it would be interesting to find out who has those paintings.
Oh yeah, oh my goodness.
Well, as much as we'd like to continue this line of conversation,
It's time to open it up.
we just want to end with these portraits that you did.
Oh, yeah.
And mostly you did these during the pandemic, right?
Yes,
So what made you start doing these kinds of portraits? And I love the George Floyd portrait.
yeah, well, COVID was like, I lost my brother during COVID. And we lost so many people, you know. And it was like, I mean, it was really hard. It was like, I would go into my studio, because I'm used to working every day, but I couldn't feel anything. It was so hard, and I was like, God, this world is like, is it worth it, you know? It was really hard for me to even start. And I realized that I have like many containers of parts that, because of the larger pieces, I have many like papers that are different shapes that I cut off of. You know. So I looked at them and I was like, you know, maybe I could do something. You know, it has to be small. I cannot be anything major because I'm not ready for that, you know, again. And I thought maybe I can do portraits. I have all these papers that are like different shapes, and from larger paintings you would have like smaller parts that you cut off. And so I said, this is the best way to approach a portrait, because that's how we all are. We're so many different things, you know, and so many different feelings. And so I decided, I think I did like about 30 of them. And doing the portraits was what got me up in the morning, beside my cat. That really got me up in the morning. It's like, you know, I could go into the studio, and I love forms, and however these shapes began to like look otherworldly even, you know. The George Foreman Floyd, when I did that piece, I just did it, and I looked at it, and I was like, God, this is definitely George Floyd, you know. And I started just every day just creating these portraits. And it felt like I was not the only one doing this. It was like, it's that whole thing about you're not the only one that's creating these pieces. There's a reason why you're doing them. And so that's how I felt. But the portraits were by themselves. And then when I looked at them, and I felt like they deserve a background, because I don't do backgrounds really. I love not doing backgrounds. So I began to paint. I would buy large sheets of watercolor paper, and I started doing these paintings, and I wanted them as backgrounds. That was like, for me, that was something I normally would not do. And I hadn't, it's strange as an artist, there's some things you trust yourself to do, some things you know, they're a painting. This is not what I do. This is not, I don't just create a painting, how can I say, abstract painting. But it was so interesting, and I felt like, well, if people don't like it, it's okay, you know. Who cares at this point in time? Nobody's buying it. I'm just going to love what I'm doing. I'm just going to paint and place the portraits on the background. And that's what I did. So I did about 30 of them. And then to look back on them, at this point in time, looking back on them, I see some things that I never saw before. Really strange, yeah.
Well, that's a good way to end. Let's thank Barbara for this illuminating day.
That's short enough for you, is the right time.
Okay, I think Bill Valerio and Hildy is here with mics if you have any questions.
Thank you. All of you have really provided so much insight into this work. I was at another talk with Barbara earlier, and this one has really fleshed out a lot of the questions that I had. But
Give us your name.
oh, okay. My name is Sid Carpenter.
Yo, Sid!
My question has two parts to it, but probably one answer would probably be enough, and it has to do with decisions that we make as artists and the whole idea of what would you change if you had the opportunity. But also, I wanted to know if Barbara could identify in her life the crossroads of her life, like when she was required or needed to make decisions, and could she talk a little bit about the crossroad or primary crossroads or the important crossroads in her life and what would have changed?
Okay, that's a great question.
I mean, we
Yeah.
all have those moments. Everybody in this room has a
Yeah.
crossroad moment.
I really do believe that the Jasmine Gardens was my crossroad. Because it was totally emotional, and I don't know. It was. I think also just the reactions to people, you know, what they had to say. It was something that I would continue until it ended, but that it took me to different places and it made me see who I was, you know. Like, I think there's so many crossroads in my life, so I'm not, but that one, I'll stick to that one.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I think you answered all the questions.
Yeah,
I think Barbara just
I answered
ruled
all
the
those
roost.
questions.
Okay, I think.
Okay, here's one.
Yes, maybe you could talk to us a little bit more about snakes.
Okay. Well, you know, look, basically in my life, I'm really not afraid of anything. You know, bugs, mice, rats, you name it, dogs, you know. And I'm just not afraid of most things. I think that I don't know, for some reason, snakes always puzzled me when I was small, but I had a bad experience and I never got over it. And I could tell if someone brought a snake in here. I could tell. I just know he's there, you know? I mean...
All right, where are you? Who has the snake?
Yeah. I would not do camp or anything like that because I know how little boys are. They'll find one and chase their teacher in a minute. So, but when I think of them, I think they're, I deeply respect them because of all things, there's still that mystery to me, you know. But I find that, I don't know, for some reason, probably because of the way I feel about them, I always have them in my artwork, you know. They're also, what do you call it? They're also, what is the word for it? They're also sexual, okay? They are that sign, and I think about that, you know. I don't think about it a lot, but I do know that that's it, you know.
So you could do Jasmine Gardens, but you can't do a snake? I mean, come on. Come on, Barbara.
See, you all missed the interview we had.
You would just be so surprised. You know, it's just, I don't know, it's just that way. It's like, yeah, I can't answer, but I have deep respect for them, and they're always there. I mean, when I moved to Germantown, what did I see? Garden snakes everywhere. I mean, it was like, God,
But you know, snakes also have a deep relationship to the movement in your works.
yes, thank you.
Okay, see?
Probably.
A great movement. They
Yeah.
have relationships to dance, and they have umbilical, you know, relationships within the sexual realm on the other side, or the aftermath of. So snakes have a wide range of meaning as well as mystery.
Yes.
Do you understand that we find intertwined in everything that we do?
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
And there's a question over here.
I'm an artist, and I've known Barbara quite a long time. And I want to say that Barbara is an artist who shares. And we have been to each other's studios many times over the 40 years that we've known each other. And it's unusual, in my experience, for many painters to share. And Barbara is honest and open and shares her observations about life. She shares her travels. She shares what she's thinking about. And she also wants to know, she wants you to reciprocate and share what you know. And so we have cross-pollinated over many years, and that's one of the things that I value about Barbara's friendship and her art, because she has helped me grow as an artist, and I feel in some ways I've helped her grow as an artist, and that's invaluable. So I think that there are probably many people in this room who feel the same way. And it's just, it's extraordinary, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that you touched very briefly on Barbara as the teacher, because that is another dimension of her life that needs to be lifted up and celebrated. Although I am not a direct beneficiary, my daughter was your student at Prince in Progress on Culture Street. She went for many years and learned at your elbow. She is now a teaching artist, and she had a work, it was included in the Jory exhibition here earlier in the year. So she celebrates the human form in her art just as you have. And I want to thank you from the deepest reaches of my heart for your inspiration and your ability to create art and artists. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you.
With that, thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Lowery. And I invite everyone who's here. We have some refreshments set up. We can continue the conversation more casually in our historic galleries. And we've opened up the doors onto the porch so we can spill outside. And everybody's invited to take a roll in the hay maze. So, thank you.